So when you passed the exam at 28, being one of the youngest, how did you feel? If someone told you at 18 that you will become a master sommelier by 28, what would you have said?
I'd say it was a bit bittersweet to pass. One, I would say obviously sweet for obvious reasons, but it was a bit bitter because I really truly enjoyed and loved the process. Um,
Mm,
it was my entire life. I obviously worked as a sommelier. I studied. It was everything, and I really, really loved it. People see it as grueling. They see it as something that's so difficult. I just sort of committed myself to it, and I accepted that's what I was going to be doing because I did love it. That when I
mm.
passed, it sort of went, okay, so now what do I do with my life, right? It was a very difficult thing. And no one tells you about that. And you sort of, okay, you pass and you wake up the next day, you've passed the master sommelier exam. It's like, great, what do I do with my time now?
Yeah.
It's an enormous amount of time. It really it swallows up your life in a way that it's really hard for me to put into words. It's all you think about. It's all you do all day. It's your life. And it was very difficult for me to go, okay, what do I do now? And I'd say that I've always been the type of mindset. I don't celebrate things very much. I've never been that type of
Okay.
person. I've always been looking very forward. So it was very odd for a lot of people around me. They wanted much bigger celebration. I'm not programmed that way. Once I
Yeah.
passed it, I passed it. It was like, okay, what's next? That life is already lived. It's behind me. I mean, even the day afterwards, the next morning, I showed up for work at 8 a.m. and was at the computer, reconciling some inventory things, buying some wine. My boss at the time, who was also a master sommelier, says, Carlton,
Mm.
what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean? I'm working. And he's like, but you passed the master sommelier exam yesterday. And I said, yeah. He goes, why don't you take a couple of days off and celebrate? Or I celebrate. I said, what do you want me to do? Like, go have a party about this? Or what does that look like? I just was not programmed that way. And he laughed because it's such an odd concept for me.
Yeah.
I went, okay, what's next? Right? Because my goal is to live as much of life as I can. So once I've achieved something, I'm always looking, okay, what's the next thing that I must do? Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was that way when I was younger as well. And I could do a better job of that. I think it is important to celebrate accomplishments. And it's something I've had to check myself with our company is we've achieved a lot. And it's important to stop and go, wow, okay, we did this thing, right? Let's celebrate that. I'm
Yeah.
not very good at it. Because for me, I
I
always
see.
think, well, for everything I've achieved, there's so much more that I want to achieve. I need to start working on that. I can't spend a whole lot of time celebrating what I
Yeah.
did yesterday or last year or 6 months ago because I'm not done yet. Right? It's like, I don't know. It's just the way I think. And I think people struggle with that, but it's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah, that's such a like typical feeling when you work on something for so long and when you achieve it that like emptiness. What do you
There's a
do
massive
now?
emptiness because
Yeah.
I've never been a person who just went through the steps of life. Many people wake up and they just go through this routine of life, which is okay if that's what they want. I was never happy with that, even as someone who was young. I'm actively engaged with life, so I'm thinking about it all the time. It consumes me in a way that I love because I love
Yeah.
committing myself and working towards something and achieving. And you don't always achieve. Sometimes you fail. And that's really hard. And you go, okay, you have to pick up the pieces. What did I do wrong here? How do I do it better? But you're actively engaged in living and doing things. So for me, once that went away, it was like, well, I need something else that I can actively be engaged in that is difficult, that is rigorous, and requires a lot of me. And it's probably very difficult to do, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing is
Yeah.
like you set a goal for yourself that's very easily attainable. It's not very exciting. Um, it's just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. It doesn't challenge you. It doesn't get you into the flow feeling. I think this is we just touched upon one of the like main characters of successful people. This feeling or this approach to these situations when you finish a huge challenge and being so ready and being curious about the next challenge. I know lots of people have great capabilities, very smart, but they have this different style of thinking when they achieved something and they are so like comfortable with it, and they just hold this like
I see it
this
all the time.
trophy for their whole life, and they are they hugging their
It's like the guy who won the championship game in high school.
yeah
He walks around with
yeah
his varsity jacket on in high school. The rest of his life, there's nothing more sad.
yeah
He hasn't done anything since, but you know what? He's telling the story of that touchdown pass he threw to win the game for the
yeah,
next 50 years.
that was the peak of
To
his
me, I
life.
could never be that person. I'm the person that you win the game with. Great. I would put the varsity jacket in the closet and I go, what am I going to achieve next? Because
Yeah
for me, the achieving isn't for the outside world.
yeah
That's the thing, right? I think Rick Rubin always talks about not creating for other people. You create for yourself and hope that they, are accepting of it. And, but for me, I achieve things myself personally.
yeah
So I'm not looking for the round of applause from the audience.
yeah
It's nice to have. It gives you a little bit more confidence to keep going, because I think where the value is. But I don't sit around celebrating those things too long. I think it gives me anxiety to think about that.
yeah. I think it's quite cliche, but I think this is like the appreciating the journey, not the destination. If you like think about this whole process, then that is your focus, and you don't really care that this one is finished, because you are on this path of doing the next thing.
Yeah, and people say, "Well, are you a workaholic? Are you addicted to it?" I said, "It's not about work. I don't think of it that way, right? Everything's about your
Yeah
perspective. Like to me, I think I've been really blessed to be able to do a lot of what I wanted to do, because I've worked very hard at it, and I continue to. But it's not work to me. It's like as long as again, you remove the fog, and you know where you're going, you have an idea
yeah
where you're going, then it's a process that you're going through, and you're sort of toiling through it, trying to find the best way. It's not work. I mean, I
yeah
mean, I've never had a job where I go, well, I just need to show up and do this thing, get my paycheck, go home. Great. I guess if you think that way, then that can be work. But I've never
yeah
approached anything I've done that way. And I try to create a company culture here where we don't do that either. I don't need people in my company that think that way, because I can imagine it's a very depressing way to live.
yeah. And what like when people say these things, I think about what else do you want me to do, because this is what gives the greatest joy, accomplishing these challenges and being useful in the world.
Yes.
And without that, what like sitting on the beach the whole day, that is kind of okay for an hour, but
Yeah, I hate sitting on the beach with a passion. I don't get it. I go out, and my wife loves beach vacations. She's a much calmer person than I am, and she's an incredible human. But she loves reading. She loves, like, for her, like,
yeah,
going to a beautiful tropical place, spending a little time in the water, sitting on the beach reading a book. I get so much anxiety. I have to be doing something. I have to be learning something. I have to be stimulated by something, and it's
yeah,
very, very difficult for me. But I think I always say is there obviously these things change the moment you add value to your life. Like, you get married, you have kids, and you do have to choose a priority. But I would say is that I can still achieve things. I have to do it in a different way.
yeah.
What it challenges me to do is to be smarter about the way I work, instead of just being the sort of, I'm just going to grind this out and be grueling. There, you start realizing, wow, I can actually achieve the same way. I just need to do it smarter, right? And that is the challenge. Then it doesn't mean
Yeah.
people think, okay, well, now I can use my spouse and my kids as an excuse, and I'll just do less. And I don't think that's the answer for me. For me, it's how do I work smarter, right?
Yeah.
How can I achieve what I need to, but in less time, right? That to me is the challenge now.
Exactly, and I think the whole journey and these responsibilities and challenges that we are talking about, they are not just like strictly focused on like this career or financial steps. It includes also these personal things,
Of
and
course.
trying to maximize it. It doesn't mean that if you are spending time with your family, your wife, your children, that at that time you are not focusing on your career. That is also one part where you are so useful in the world and providing.
I solve more problems in our company when I'm not at work. I have
Yeah.
a gym I built out in my garage. I used to go to the gym. It's very inefficient to drive there, drive back. So I built one in my garage. So I work out in my garage,
Yeah.
and I have a rolling dry erase board like you would have in a conference room. I have it in my garage in the gym. While I'm working out, I'm thinking about problems, things we have going on in the company we need to solve, and I'm dry erase boarding ideas out as I'm working out. Stop. I'm trying to look at it, lift weights, or whatever. And I'll look at it. I'm always thinking about these things, and to your point, like challenging yourself out of work, whether it's physical fitness, exercise, trying to learn something new. I'm currently trying to learn how to play the piano, which is very, very difficult. It takes a lot of time that I don't have. So I've sort of, I think, in a sense, had to accept that I'm never going to be the loneliest monk. But if I can play a few songs that I really like, then I'll be very happy with that. I had to set a lower bar, but it's a mindset. I think that to me is important. It's the mindset, and in recognizing that you in every part of your life, you want to try to be the best version of yourself and push and challenge yourself, whether that's a husband or a wife or a parent, a dog owner, whatever it is. And I think I've seen very few people who don't try to apply that to most of their lives. Obviously, there's examples. There's the business person who has a complete failed personal life because work has become the absolute priority over that. And I would say it's because they chose the wrong challenge, right? They didn't look to say, how can I do all this and still be successful? They said, well, no, this is how I do this, right?
Most definitely. And actually, your technique of working out and taking notes about work is, I think, a very great idea. I read a couple of days ago a scientific paper on this idea of doing something different can help you. I'm not like a
Of course. Yeah.
physician, but
Yes.
in your brain, the neurons free up that part of your brain, your work part, focus on different parts, and then that part has time and energy to solve some issues. And that's why working out is a great example, showering, and even sleeping.
Yes.
There are lots of situations when you wake up and some problem that you had just resolved, the solution. There is this neurological
It's like the machine's still
thing.
working,
Yeah.
twirling with this thing, but you go bing, like a light bulb hits. You go, whoa, okay, there it is. That's the answer.
Yeah. When you don't force it, you do something else, then it has time to resolve it. Thanks for watching this video. You can watch the full podcast episode by clicking here, or watch another interesting video by clicking here. Let's continue the discussion in the comment section and see you in the next one.